If there was a God that could provide people with comfort, then what would be the reason that people need to be born and suffer and die?
And I actually think that the comfort a person gets from taking action, that even though there's so little you can do, you're doing something, is more meaningful than the comfort a person gets from God will sort it out, so fuck them all.
Just punch them in the face and then give them $100 afterward.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for supporting the channel. As some of you know, the majority of my content on this channel is funded by patrons at patreon.com/atheistdebates. But all of the content is available for free to all of you. If you're able to become a patron, I appreciate the support, but this clip is not patron supported. It's from a call we took recently on the line. I'll be posting more clips like this, probably with this intro attached to all of them, especially as we near 200,000 subscribers here. So whether you're a patron, a YouTube subscriber, or just someone who views and comments, likes, and subscribes, thank you and enjoy.
Suffering and injustice. Sarah tried to call the other day and we didn't get to take the question. Sarah, welcome. Thank you for calling back.
Hello. I'm hoping that I can be audible this time. I think last time it was going in and out quite a lot.
Yeah, we hear you great. How can we help?
I think so. I have spoken to both of you previously, I think, and I probably made a bit of a fool of myself. And I think you were very kind around a lot of what I was fumbling to try to understand. So you asked me at one point whether I cared whether what I believed was true or whether it was what was comforting. And I think my sort of gut instinct at that point was to say, well, of course I care about whether it's true. And at the same time, I think actually that's a harder question than I had understood at the time, or thought that there's a lot that, especially recently, I realized that there is a lot that is comforting, and it's difficult to separate that from the idea of truth without being analytical about it in ways that I haven't really.
What's wrong with being analytical?
Nothing. It's that I haven't undertaken that work in this. I mean, there are still a lot of things which I think I talked about personal experience around things, but what I didn't talk about was the sense of the extent to which it is under certain circumstances, there is a tendency to lean very heavily on faith. I think one of the things that has come up a lot recently for me has been thinking about the situation in Palestine. And when I think about before things went, I mean, for a while we were seeing footage of children in hospitals, and it was very comforting to think back, to think about the fact that, just over 2 millennia ago, there was another little boy in the West Bank who...
No, there wasn't.
Made sense. Or perhaps, yes, I acknowledge that for me made sense of suffering of that sort. And it's very difficult to get to the stage of, it's difficult to confront the idea that there might be those children, their lives might essentially be, for much of it, the very young ones, the babies and so on, just suffering and then death and then nothing.
Yeah. And
I realized
how does that make sense? How does that make sense in a world with a God?
I think for me, there was a suggestion that they would have something afterwards, which would mean that they could that would.
So are you suggesting
would
that the
make up.
purpose of their life was to be born and suffer and die brutally so they could go on to an afterlife? And you're okay with that?
I think framed in that way, it's.
What other way should we frame it?
I'll try. Let me try to
that model, because that model has a God creating a world where babies are born specifically to suffer and die horrendously.
Sarah, I'll attempt to steel man you because I think you're. First of all, I think you're very nervous, and I think I know what point you're trying to make, and I think if we do it this way, it'll be the easiest way to get it back to you. I think what you're saying, Sarah, is essentially you look out at a world that is tremendously awful. It's filled with suffering, and like these recent events in Palestine, you have difficulty seeing why you would want to let go of a belief that at least makes those types of things livable. That you can go, yes, all this suffering is happening, but I believe in this benevolent creator who is going to make all of that right even after the suffering, and that it kind of helps you go about your day not dwelling on the stuff that's happening there. Is that pretty much accurate?
That's probably, yes. I mean, the sense that there would be something afterwards for them that would mean that it, I mean,
right. But
I think the idea of them being.
Remember your first thing that you brought up was that we talked about, are you doing it because it's right or for your own comfort? And you're describing doing it for your own comfort, not for their comfort. Those babies are dead and either God exists or doesn't, right? Those are the options. They're dead and they either did suffer and God exists or doesn't. And so for your comfort, you can adopt that. But let's just think about a world where we don't adopt that, where we discourage adopting that because there's not good reason. Is it possible that a world which recognizes that suffering and death is actually an evil thing to do to other people? Is it as easy to imagine a conflict like Gaza if you had a world full of people who were not religious and were not having an easier time, even those who are not in the conflict themselves? The conflict itself is obviously a religious-based conflict, but outside of it, perhaps if more people had to uncomfortably reason with the fact that their taxpayer dollars are killing those kids and causing their life to have no extended meaning, no extended purpose, they are taking away that child's future, and that we are all complicit in it. Is it possible, maybe even probable, that might lead to a population of people who are forced to care now because they recognize that they are complicit in other sufferings? And is what you're describing perhaps actually an evil that comes out of religion that teaches people to be content in their own complicity with the suffering of others?
I think that is a point that I certainly need to think about.
I'd hope so. Do you think so, Sarah?
It's.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I mean, I think I wanted to be upfront starting this call that I'm aware that to some extent there may be a bit of self-deception in place around, oh, of course, a lot of this is wanting to believe because of what's true, but also an understanding that actually there is probably a lot of self-comforting underneath it. And I don't know if I'm aware that, a lot of work, I don't know that it necessarily means that one then decides, oh, well, God can sort it all out, so I don't need to attempt to donate to charity or to try to do what I can. But there's also, I think, a sense of being so small and not really having the opportunity to make things better, and wanting there to be something big that can do that, of realizing that I don't have the ability to make things right. And I don't think it would be, I think it would be conceited of me to suppose that I would have that sort of power, and wanting to defer to something that does have the ability to soothe and to make something that will provide those who have suffered with comfort afterwards.
Except that Sarah, that's not what happened. If there was a God that could provide people with comfort, then what would be the reason that people need to be born and suffer and die? Why not just give them the comfort right away? Why not create people in heaven as themselves and not create the people that you're going to send to hell and not make anybody go through any existence in this reality at all? If the goal is to get, this percentage of people to heaven, why not go directly there? And if that's not the goal, if we're just like, oh, we don't know what the goal is, how can it possibly be comforting that there's a God who might make someone comfortable in an afterlife after they just made the entirety of their actual life a living hell? Like, is it okay for me to run around punching people if I give them $100 afterwards? I would say that the answer is no. And I don't know why someone would be comforted by the fact that I'm allowed to walk around the street downtown, walk up to children, to men, women, anybody, and just punch them in the face and then give them $100 afterwards. We would never allow that. So why is it acceptable or encouraging or comforting if you think that they're going to get a wonderful afterlife instead of $100? Like, you don't even have any evidence that they're going to get comfort or an afterlife. You don't have any evidence that they weren't sent directly to hell to be tormented forever. You are just looking at the situation and saying, wow, that is so bad. I hope something good happens to them, because evidently we're never going to be able to do anything good for that person, and maybe not for anybody else. And so you're just hoping that there's a God out there that's good, that'll provide comfort. But the thing is, if there was a God out there that was good, that would provide comfort, we couldn't be having this conversation. So the God that you're hoping for to bring you some comfort in a world where children are tormented and die, that God definitely does not exist.
It looks like we lost Sarah. I'm hoping Sarah's watching after, because my last note would be, I actually think the answer you gave at the end, that last answer you gave, Sarah, kind of gave away a little bit of why I think it's important that you drop that belief and believe more like it is a ginormous tragedy that those kids have gotten killed. And I think it was when you said, I can't fix it. And sure, on a broad sense, you as one person can't wave a wand, but I suspect that that's what a lot of people feel. So they don't even try. They don't even begin to try. They don't, not only do they not look out for opportunities, when opportunities present themselves, they may be more comfortable just going on their way, being the bad Samaritan, not the good Samaritan, if we're going to go with the Bible option. That it's easy to just be like, well, I could, either donate here, or I could make a different choice about what companies I support, or just little things, participating in some way. And I actually think that the comfort a person gets from taking action, that even though there's so little you can do, you're doing something, is more meaningful than the comfort a person gets from, God will sort it out, so fuck them all. I reject the idea of, I wouldn't be here if I thought there was nothing we could do for Gaza. There was nothing we could do for humanism. There's nothing we could do for having a better world tomorrow. That's the whole point of this channel. And I don't think that we're special in some way that we can do it and you can't. It'll just present in different ways. So it makes me sad to hear that religious people are going with, well, I want to keep it because I can't help anyway without keeping it. And it makes me feel better because I'm not doing anything to help. Find ways to help. Doesn't have to even be on that one specific thing. If you can't truly do anything for people in Gaza, there's nothing you can do. Do something for somebody local. Go volunteer to shelter, whatever. Do something for somebody who needs a sandwich, or somebody who's needs socks, somebody who's homeless, anything. If you do what you can to help where you can, and if everybody does more of that, then there'll be less that we need to help with.